Hi, how are you doing today? Let's go for a walk around Society Hill in Washington Square West. I'll share some areas that I've learned have some haunting details during our walk. So come on, let's go and do a little learning around Philly. I'm going to apologize in advance because I know that I'm going to butcher some of these names, but this is our first stop. It is haunted by a dancer called Clarice Inglewood, who was a resident in the 1800s. Some of the information I'm going to provide to you came from the book Haunted Philadelphia by Dorsey Orts. I am going to list that book in the details below. So if you want to buy the book, I'll try to find like a link for it. Okay, so this is the Bonaparte home. Now, Joseph Bonaparte actually did not haunt a home. Clarissa's story is one of unrequited love, of wanting a plan with someone who did not want a plan with her. Um, I won't give all details. You can look her up or you can purchase the book. It has a really great summary about this. But to this day, residents have said that there is someone haunting this area. Residents have seen the figure of a woman dressed in rags, sometimes with her hands tied behind her back, walking around the back garden and alleyway next to the house. The sounds of sobbing and moaning are also heard often. So, this is now a building that was converted into apartments. To be quite honest, I had never walked back here. This is my first time. But in reading the story, it piqued my interest, so I went to the back. This area would have been the garden area. And again, I won't go into detail of her story, but this is kind of where she was held. And she tried to escape. It's kind of unknown if she was killed on the premises or if she got away and died somewhere else. It kind of has like a Cinderella twist to it, where she's trying to run up the steps. She was trying to get into the home, and the guards woke up, heard, and shot. As she was going up the steps, apparently she left a slipper behind. So unknown if she died on the premises or somewhere else, but the description of what the residents see really describes her description and what she was wearing at the time. So, very interesting story. A reminder to self not to walk around here at night. I don't want to hear sobbings or, run into figures. It's a sad story, um, but another interesting Philadelphia haunting area. While I was back here, I was actually kind of amazed. This is a beautiful building. I can't believe I've never walked back here. It is apartments, as I mentioned. There were some people looking at me strangely because they were coming out of the apartment. They were probably wondering, what on earth is she doing? But I was kind of amazed at how they set this up now. There's balconies. You can tell there's a lot of units. It's kept really well. Would I live here? No. I don't want to hear the sobbings or wonder what's around. But it is very beautiful. So keep it in mind if you're in the area, walk past there, check it out, or read up on Clarice. And tell me, what do you think? Would you walk back here alone at night? Our next stop is the Pennsylvania Hospital. There are so many haunting stories about this site. I'm going to focus on two. One of them was the wife of Stephen Girard, a very prominent figure in Philadelphia. Look him up. There's a lot of history on him. His wife was Mary Loom Girard. Mr. Girard had his wife committed into the insanity ward at Pennsylvania Hospital. It was said that she had mood swings and violent outbursts, but there is some debate on that. Mr. Girard was trying to keep her there as part of the divorce. He wanted to have mistresses and, kind of have his own life, and Mary was in the way. Mary was also pregnant when she was instituted, which he tried to claim the baby was someone else's. So Mary was instituted. She gave birth while she was instituted. Unfortunately, her baby passed away. During this time, Gerard was, keeping his side affairs, including someone named Sally Bickham, which to this day there is a portrait. Oh goodness, I can't talk. A portrait hanging of Sally in Gerard's College Founders Hall, but none of Mary. Mary died in this hospital, and her child passed away after 5 months of birth, and then she passed away. It has been said that she is buried somewhere on the site, so she never left the hospital. In acknowledgement, there is a plaque with her name on the first floor of the hospital. It has been said that her shadow has been seen and footsteps can be heard, and she can be heard sobbing and walking around, especially on the first floor. Tends to be where she is sensed the most. The other one is Mr. William Penn. It is stated that although this is a massive statue, and we have so many statues of William Penn, that William at times will actually come out of that statue and has been seen walking around the grounds. This has been witnessed even prior to reading this book. This is something that I have heard for most of my life, that he can be seen walking around the grounds at night. Now I will tell you, sometimes I stare at that statue. I like to go back here a lot, especially in springtime. The planting, all of the flowers, the trees, it is a beautiful place to just kind of go and sit down and relax. If you're in the area during the springtime, summertime, definitely a great area to go sit down. But sometimes I stare at that statue and I swear it looks like that statue is staring right at me. I know that sounds crazy, but there's just something about it. If you live in the area, go take a look at that statue. Stand there for a few minutes and tell me if something odd doesn't seem to happen. There's just something about that statue. All right, let's go to the next site. Our next stop is St. Mary's Cemetery. St. Mary's is very well known for hauntings. It is an area where you just don't walk around it at night, whether, within the cemetery or around the cemetery. I personally have walked near here at night, and I'm telling you, there's just always like an eerie feeling at night around here, which is strange because, not strange, but for me, it's kind of like this love, a little spear type of thing, because the Magnolia Garden is on the side of St. Mary's, and it is one of my favorite places to hang out during the spring and the summer. As soon as the magnolias start blooming, it's where I retreat to. It's quiet, it's peaceful. And for the most part, during the day, nothing. There's a school there, just nothing. It feels peaceful. But there's just something that is odd about walking around here in the evening. I don't know what it is, but it's just there. In the spring and in the summertime, when all of the flowers are in bloom and the fountain is on, it is such a nice place to be. And if you look to the side, as I pan out, in the video, you'll see the cemetery from there. Okay, let's take a walk towards the front of the actual church. There are two hauntings here connected to Mr. John Barry. Mr. Barry was an officer in the Continental Navy during the American Revolutionary War and later in the United States Navy. He is credited as the father of the American Navy, a title that he shares with John Paul Jones. Mr. John experienced two tragedies, the first being the death of his wife, Mary Clary. Mary died on February the 9th, 1774. Mr. John took this particularly hard, not only because he lost his wife, but also because he was not by her side. At the time of her death, he was out at sea. The second tragedy was the loss of his brother, Patrick. Patrick was on a boat that disappeared out in sea. So the haunting of this area is thought to be both Mary and Patrick. Residents of the neighborhood and those who visit the cemetery have mentioned sightings of a female figure that walks around Mr. John's tombstone. The other figure is that of a man. The thought is that this is the figure of Patrick, John's brother. Now, while Patrick died at sea, he wasn't buried, it is believed that his soul found his way back to his brother to say goodbye. And so Mary and Patrick walk the cemetery often. What do you think about that? Really tragic, but interesting because these sightings have been confirmed by several residents and people who visit, and they all seem to have that same experience. On to the next site. We're going to walk over to the Hill Visit Keith House. That's over at 321 South 4th Street. This house has quite the history. I would encourage you to look it up. Also, read the book for some summaries of it. But notably, this house was built in 1786 by Mr. Henry Hill, who was a wine importer. It was bought by Abigail Visick back in 1815. And there has been a lot of rumors on who is haunting this place. If you look up Mr. Philip Visick, I'm probably saying this very wrong, but if you look him up, he has an interesting backstory and the ties to this home, the military people, lawmakers, and a lot of famous people that came to the home to visit while he was there. There's an idea of maybe it's one of them. There's a theory that he was drugging his wife with opium to keep her in a daze so that he could live the life that he wanted to live, but Elizabeth never lived in this home. His great-granddaughter, Elsie, purchased this home, and that is the one theory that has stuck. People believe that it is Elsie who is haunting the home. When Elsie took the home over, she did a whole renovation. She had a phobia with dust, so she removed all moldings and just really transformed the house in a way where dust could not get into the home. It was just her biggest thing. When the home passed hands many times over, eventually there were purchasers who wanted to take the home back to its original state. And so the idea is that Elsie is walking around the home in the area very upset because there's dust in the home, and there's also the idea that she walks around looking for things how she left them, and they're not there in the manner that she left it. So Elsie is believed to be the person who is haunting this home. She has been seen in the window. She has been seen in this side yard by many people. Pretty interesting family. I have a couple more places I want to show you, so let's keep walking. Our next stop is St. Peter's Churchyard over at 313 Pine Street. There has been talk about paranormal activities in this area since the 1800s. It was reported that back in 1834, there was a figure, unable to tell if there was a man or a woman. There was a figure that came out every night between 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. like clockwork, and it would walk around from tomb to tomb. This became such a normal thing that it was reported in 1880 that it started generating a crowd. People would go out at night and wait because they knew that this shadow, this ghost, was going to appear. Ghost did not pay apparently mind to anyone. It walked very stiffly and it went about its business, walking from tomb to tomb. This was reported by paranormal investigator Debbie Branning. And you can find more details in the book, or you can look up St. Peter's and look up some of the sightings. There's a thought that this can be Stephen Decatur. Decatur was a naval officer who achieved many naval victories in the early 19th century. He died at 40 in a fight with another commander. He initially was buried in Washington, but he then was moved to this site so that he could be buried near his parents. So the idea is that it is him walking to his parents' tomb at night to go visit them, especially because he died abruptly. There, it wasn't one of those. He was very, very sick and then he died. And there's this belief that when someone passes away instantly and it wasn't something that was thought to happen, that the soul can get trapped and it really doesn't understand that it has passed. So the thinking is that it is Stephen, and that he is walking around to his parents. The other ghost that is mentioned in this book is that of a gentleman who walks his dog at night through the cemetery. And it is said that the dog is very protective of the cemetery. So if it senses another dog, it will try to scare them away. So if you're ever walking around here and your dog is alert, like those ears are going up or they seem scared or something seems off, pay attention to your doggy and turn around and go the other way. The owner of the cemetery, wherever this little dog is, does not want you there. Additionally, there is a theory that there were Indians buried here. They had come over for peace treaty, but they died of yellow fever while they were here. They did not, Washington had them buried here, but they did not get their traditional burial, and so it is thought that they were unrest, that their souls were not at rest. The book does mention that more recently there was a modern day sort of ceremony held by their modern day relative so that their spirit could be at peace. Another ghost that is said to be in the area is a person who was not too nice, and it's called the Phantom in the Carriage, who has been seen and heard just ripping near the cemetery with the horse just kind of almost racing into the sidewall of the church. And the other one is just a random souls, either the hoofs of horses or soldiers walking in the area. Here's something that happened to me as I was walking through here prior to reading this book. There's another video that I posted somewhere in here, and I was just doing a standard walking video, and I cut through the cemetery. It was like very early, so there was no one around, and I kept hearing someone walking behind me. And I kept stopping because usually I'm with someone, or, you know, there's someone with me. But I was alone. It was early morning. It wasn't even a planned walk, but I was out, and I just figured, okay, let me record. And I kept hearing walking, so I kept stopping because I have a camera, and I'm like, okay, like, I don't want someone snatching up my camera. And every time I turned around, there was no one there. Now it was kind of windy, so, human mind. I started thinking like, oh, it's probably the wind, or it's probably the way that my bag is hitting the side of the coat or something. I was making up excuses. But as I was reading the book, I learned that a lot of people who walk through here will hear footsteps almost racing up on them, and that supposedly is the ghost of someone who doesn't particularly want you walking through here. So they're kind of like trying to chase you off. So it kind of caught me off guard when I read that, because I thought, my God, I must have turned around 3 times. And at one point, I just kind of stopped because I was like, all right, someone like hiding off to the side, and the North Philly in me was coming out. I'm like, okay, I'm ready. Who's hiding? And I put my camera away, and there was just nothing there. And I remember telling a family member, I'm like, I think I was losing it this morning. I kept hearing people walking behind me, but there was someone there. It makes so much sense now. I did not know that before reading this. So if you're walking through here, if you're from Philadelphia and you're walking through here and you hear those footsteps, it's someone letting you know that, hello, you're in my space. Keep it moving. So I thought that was pretty interesting. All right, let's head to the next site. We are now at the Old Pine Street Church and Cemetery at 412 Pine Street. This area has a history with military. In particular, Haitians were brought over to help with the rebuild and military, but apparently they kind of got the bad end of the situation. A lot of them died, either killed or died due to disease, and a lot of them were left here. And it is said that you can see orbs, and that there is a lot of sound of pain and death in this area. Residents and those who visit will say that they have a sense of just eeriness when they're here. Let me tell you what happened to me. You will see it as I am heading back out of this cemetery. When I walked in, I can't make this stuff up. When I walked in, I felt a little faint. I actually have never walked through here. This is my first time walking through here. I love this building. I don't know how many pictures of it, but I don't believe I ever really took the time to walk through the cemetery in here. When I walked in, I just felt like chilly, and it was actually nice weather. and I had my coat unzipped, but here I actually felt chilly and I felt a little lightheaded. I just kind of blew it off to the fact that maybe it's time to go and get something to eat, and I just kept walking around. Let me tell you that the scariest thing happened to me at this site. And in my head, I was like, oh my God, because I want to share Philadelphia with my YouTube family. I I'm about to just be on the news or something. I did my walking around. There was another family here, and they were walking around. The son was taking a picture, and I was just minding my business, walking around on this side. I then end up on the other side. There was a gentleman, a tall gentleman, walking on that side. I did a little quick look, and then I came back around, and you would not believe what happened. I'll leave you with this view, and I'll come back to give you more details of what happened here. Okay, are you ready for this? The family that was there is nowhere to be seen. That tall gentleman that I saw and asked a question, I never saw him come in. And here I am minding my business, getting ready to exit, when I realize that I am locked in. The gate is locked, and my heart starts to spin. I go down to the next side, and there the gate is locked as well. I see the tall man, and I ask him, "Hey, how did you get in? How can I get out?" And he just kind of said, "I don't know. I just got here." But I never saw him walk in. And so I had to walk back around, and out of nowhere, this guy popped up, and I said, "Hey, how do you get out?" He let me out. He didn't say too much. He just came over and unlocked the gate and let me out. I was terrified. I was shaking. I was already imagining myself on the news. Girl called 911 because she got locked in a cemetery. I didn't understand how the tall guy got in there, if I was already locked in there. And when did the family leave? Because from the time I had last saw them to the time that I wrapped around to the other side of the cemetery, it couldn't have been more than 5, 6, 7 minutes. So I have no idea when someone had the time to go and lock both gates. When I tell you I sprinted out of there, I just, for 2 blocks, I was trying to analyze what had just happened. And so I will tell you that I will never go back inside that cemetery. Also, if the view of this cemetery in the building kind of gives you, like, I've seen this before, this is the building that is in the movie National Treasure with Nicolas Cage, the movie from 2004. And it is also where young Cole and his mother go by as they make their way to the funeral home of the little girl that passed away from the movie Sixth Sense. One thing about Philadelphia that you might or might not know, a lot of our buildings, because they're so old and such a part of history, a lot of the exteriors of our buildings are used for movies. And this one happened to be in both The Sixth Sense and National Treasure. I am good with never going back there. Let's go on to our next site. We are now at the Powell House, located at 244 South 3rd Street. The Powell House was built in 1765. It was purchased by Samuel Powell, who purchased it 4 years after it had been built from Charles Stedman, who was facing prison due to debt. The house has a lot of haunting history, but one of my favorite ones involves a woman. In 1965, historian Edward Countant Moore gave examples of haunting events that he witnessed. Some were of men who were seemingly walking around the home and spending time just kind of enjoying the home. But the one that interests me the most was that of his wife. Mr. Moore's wife had an encounter with a woman as she went into the drawing room one night. There was a woman sitting in a chair, and she looked right at her. But when Mrs. Moore turned on the light, the spirit was gone. She described the woman as wearing a beige and lavender dress and had black hair. A few months later, Mrs. Moore was out shopping, looking for a dress to wear for an event. When she came across a dress at a local store, there was the exact dress that the woman she saw in that chair was wearing. When she asked about the dress, the shopkeeper told her that the dress was known as the Peggy Shippen gown. Here's the kicker. Peggy was the daughter of a prominent Philadelphia family and the wife of the notorious Revolutionary trader Benedict Arnold. Can you believe that? So who she saw in that room looking at her, dressed up, ready to go to an event, was Benedict Arnold's wife. And she then later found the dress as she was looking for a dress to wear. That would just send chills down my spine. So that's one of the many stories that you can find in the book, or again, if you look up any of these people or these homes online, there's a lot of Philadelphia history on them that you can read up on. Okay, let's head on to the next site that I want to show you. Before we head to our last site, there are these awesome statues right around here that I want to show you. I love this whole little alleyway, and these statues are so cute. I cannot finish the video without showing these. Aren't they cool? Okay, let's go to our last site. Our final location is to the Rebecca Gratz Club on 532 Spruce Street. This building, while now is an apartment building, it was a residence for poor pregnant Jewish women and also women with emotional problems back in the 1950s. So this is now an apartment building, and residents have stated that they have seen a woman appear before them, typically looking sad, looking away, looking down, and as quickly as she appears to them, she disappeared. While it is not known, some speculate that this is Rebecca Grant. She was a 19th century Jewish philanthropist, and she was also the inspiration for Sir Walter Scott's Rebecca of York character, Ivanhoe. However, this building wasn't constructed until after she passed away. So we don't know if it's that she was in the area, somewhere nearby, or if it's the namesake that's bringing her there. But there are definitely sightings of a woman at this building. Okay, so that concludes the haunting around Society Hill. There's so many more places, but these are just a few. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed this topic, I do plan to do a couple more videos like this in different areas of Philadelphia. So if you like it, stay tuned. Some more videos coming your way about different haunted areas in the city. Till then, have a great day, and thank you for sticking around and listening to this voice until the end. Have a great day.